If I could give you one strategy, just one, you're looking at the maps behind me, one strategy to just catch fish, what do you think it is? Well, it's an old school expression called K.I.S.S, an acronym, if you will. Keep it simple, stupid. That's right. And I'm going to share with you something that I do that catches fish every time I go. And with an entire wall of possibilities on that side of my shop, and I mean, I'm going to turn it on here real quick. An entire wall of possibilities. There's one that works every single time. I'm going to share it with you next. This episode of Flats Class YouTube is brought to you by Aquatraction, your go-to solution for advanced marine flooring. Keep it simple, stupid. All I'm telling you to do is do one thing, and don't do anything else. Maximize the number of casts that you can make in an outing. That's how you keep it simple. And by doing that, you can't have all these possibilities. You just can't. Because you'll find yourself retying and changing and indecision time and running around and going down one rabbit hole and into another one, and it just never ends. But if you want to be consistent, if you want to catch fish, if you're a tournament guy, you got to do the power fishing thing that just really isn't sexy, and that's just constantly swing a paddle tail. That's it. Just fish a paddle tail. That's all you have to do. If you straight crank, and what I mean by straight crank, cast, reel back, cast and reel back, cast and reel back a paddle tail, you will catch fish regardless of what else you do. If you keep a record of the days when you just fish a paddle tail and you fish everything else, you're going to be shocked how many fish that you catch just swimming a paddle tail jig. That's it, just a swim jig. That's all it takes. Now, are there some paddle tails better than others? Swim jigs better than others? Of course there are. Z-Man makes the best. They've got a material called Elastec. There's nothing that compares. They just have more action, regardless of water temperature or anything, than all of the competition. Now, they make every size paddle tail you can imagine. Slim swims, mag swims, diesel minnows. So they've got everything covered from 2 inches to 10 inches. But there's one size that I always like to throw that I want to share with you, and I rig it a certain way, and once I do it, I just power fish a flat and I just catch fish. And I'm going to catch fish all day long, and I know I am, because whether I sight fish them, throw to likely cover, or just power blind cast, I'm going to catch some damn fish. So I'm going to take you up here to the workbench, show you how it's done. All right, back to keeping it simple, stupid. That's right, we're going to talk about swim jig fishing. All right. I briefly touched on the fact that you can throw a bunch of different size paddle tails, but there's one size paddle tail that kind of culls out the little fish, and it's not too big, to keep you from catching anything, and that's the 4-inch diesel minnows. This one size bait that they make at Z-Man is responsible for most of my charter clients' catches. Because I know we can keep from catching short juvenile trout and pinfish and pesky snappers and things like that if we throw a 4-inch paddle tail. Now, I almost always put this on a 3/16 jig head. That way I can let them throw medium action rods, have good casting distance, but still have good touch. And what do I mean by that? Well, one of the cool things about a diesel minnow is it's got a nice flat side to it. See, it's not as a round body of bait as you would think. So if we get up close to docks or overhanging mangrove shorelines, there's the opportunity to sit there and skip these things like a stone in the back. Well, you might say, well, wouldn't it be better to put, rigging hooks for that technique and whatnot? And I go, at times it would be. But because we're covering water and we're trying to keep it simple, I prefer the open, weight forward jig head style. That's what I throw the most. And these little trout eyes do a fantastic job. 3/16 is the right weight. Go to a quarter, the guys make a long cast, and if they're not good at feathering the line down and closing the bail all at the same time, this thing will drop into the bottom and get fouled or hung up. But the 3/16 with a 4-inch body is just perfect. It gives them time. This Elastec bait is buoyant, so it's a slow faller. Gives them time, and they get this thing rolling. And because of the shape of the bait, when you look at it long ways, is kind of a narrow-bodied bait. That water rolls down these flanks, and this thing's got that nice big boot tail, and the whole bait kind of rolls. That tail really swims. Has a very natural action at kind of an average crank speed. So you don't have to burn it, and you don't have to hop it to give it action or anything. This stuff has a ton of action. Like I said, this material is great. Now, a trick that I like to use with clients, because the main thing you hear is, oh, this bait's sliding off the collar of the bait. Just put a little super glue, 1 drop of super glue right there, push that up, you're done. You hold that for 3 seconds, you're done. That bait's staying on there all day long. I don't care if you catch 25 fish, it's not coming off. It's gonna be impossible for them to tear it off. 1 drop of super glue, it's over. And all I'm having them do is kick it out and reel it back. Kick it out and reel it back. And I've done on the water videos where I've showed you guys how we catch these fish doing that technique. It just simply works. This is gonna maximize the number of casts. So I'll have someone throw a color like this. This is a bicolor bait, looks like most of the minnows. This is called red bones, got more of a bait fish type belly to it, that alabaster pearl, cool look to it with a darker back. That bicolor they can see from a greater distance. So it expands the strike zone. So this would be probably the jig that I would have them throw, or green lantern. But I might have another guy throw, if I've got 2 anglers on the boat, maybe have him swim something more in a darker color that matches the bottom. And like the right stuff, one of the best colors we make at Z-Man. Incredible stuff here. All you have to do, 3/8, and I'm gonna show you the rod setup I'm gonna do. Let me get that stuff together, and you watch this video of us catching snook throwing the diesel minnows. Yeah, Mr. Snook. Look, there's another snook right here. Yep, there's a couple of snook there and a redfish. That whole hole is good. I'm gonna try to lead him away. Oh, there goes another one. Holy cow. That's the McDonald's on the corner right there, my friend. Boy, you can tell these things pull pretty hard for their length. Wow. What a beautiful fish. I mean, beautiful. God, that's a good looking fish.
What did we say, 3rd one was the charm finally?
Yeah, Cadillac bass right there, my friend. Got the big DeVille line. Doesn't get any sweeter than that.
That's a pretty one too.
Yeah, it is. Oh man. Good looking. What you got cooking? Ooh. You can't go under the boat, buddy. And hooked right where he had to be. right here.
You could have caught them with 12-pound.
Could have caught them with the IGFA rated stuff. All right. Let's go, buddy. Let go of my finger now. Come on. Swim away. Under the boat. There's no water under the boat. That was some great action. It really was. And there is no better guide to push a boat down a flat than Captain Brian Chamberlain. His eyes miss nothing. And he epitomizes the keep it simple, stupid philosophy because he likes to do things one way, and that's bomb cast fly rods for those fish in those potholes there in Chassahowitzka National Wildlife Refuge. And it doesn't always have to be about sight fishing. It has to be about covering water. And that's why we are going to continue with the keep it simple, stupid philosophy ourselves. Now, when I'm throwing the 4-inch diesel minnows, which in my opinion is the ideal size for you to cover the maximum amount of water, still give yourself the best chance to catch quality fish. I mean, if you go to a 2.5 or a 3-inch minnows, of course you're going to catch more fish, but they're going to be a lot smaller fish. You're going to be wasting time. And if you go to a 5-inch diesel minnows or maybe a 6-inch grass kickers, the upsized baits from this one, well, you are going to catch a quality fish eventually, but then there's always the outside chance that you won't. But this little 4-inch diesel minnows kind of does the trick, and that's why it is a staple for my charter clients. Now, what do we throw this stuff on? Well, with my charter clients, I let them basically throw it on a 7-foot E6X medium action spinning rod with a 3000 Stratic packed with 10-pound braid and 30-pound leader because we expect to have an opportunity to catch snook. So I always stay with that 30-pound, probably about 30 inches of 30-pound leader. But for me personally, because I want to be efficient, I want to be able to make sight fishing casts, I want to be able to power fish, and I just want to cover water. And when I tell you that I'm the guy that makes 600, 700, 800 casts a day in a day of fishing, that's my strength. If you ask anyone who's ever fished with me for fun, just for fun, they're like, dude, you're a straight up machine. I have never seen anyone fish that fast, that hard. And I tell them, that's the secret. Keeping it simple and just simply covering water as fast as you can. And there's nothing better to do that with than a casting rod setup. Now this, I'm not pushing you toward a $800 casting setup. This is the Shimano GLF. It's more of a parabolic action rod, throws stuff from 1/4 to 1/2 ounce really well. This is the Corrado DC that has the chip in it. You can suck at casting reels and be great with this one. This thing's awesome. I set this thing up. I'll usually set it up on number 1 or number 2. There's like 4 settings on this. This is the 150 HG Corrado. This is the DC model, and I've got 20-pound braid on here. I just let this thing go. Just cast and fly it as far as I can, and it screams when I'm doing it because I'm forcing it past that break all the time. But with that 3/16 jig weight, 30 inches of 30-pound mono leader, because I'm expecting to catch snook, as you saw in the video with Captain Brian. This is a 7-foot rod. This is just a great setup, very balanced, easy to cast all day, lightweight, doesn't weigh a whole lot. An economic value at that. Just doing this, swim jig fishing, keeping it simple, power fishing, maximizing the number of casts, not getting back down in the bottom of the boat and retying, thinking, oh, I could tie a topwater on, oh, I could tie a spoon on, oh, I could sight fish with a finesse bait. By not doing any of that, and making sure I'm standing up and constantly casting, especially if you guys are tournament guys. Like today is the Big Fish Classic in Crystal River out of Sodium Fishing. There's 220 boats in that tournament. I had guys walking up at the captain's meeting last night saying, C.A., are you fishing the tournament? I go, nope, I'm going in for surgery on Monday, so I'm not going to take any chances that anything bad happens between now and Monday. I'm just taking it easy. Well, they're like, what would you do? I was like, I'd power fish. I'd get a paddle tail, I'd cast it out, I'd reel it back, and I'd do it about 750 times. And that's going to give you your best chance to catch the maximum number of fish so that you can win this tournament. I wouldn't make it any harder than that. Keep it simple, stupid. It works. You'll catch fish. I know this was a different type of video that we do here at Flats Class YouTube, but I wanted to share with you something that I think all anglers do. They overthink it. They try to do too much. Just keep it simple and you'll catch more fish. Take it from me. I've been doing it for over 30 years. If you like what you're seeing here at Flats Class YouTube, give us that big thumbs up on the button below there. Put some comments down there. Ask me some questions about what works for you. And if you really like what we're doing here, please subscribe. Tell all your fishing buddies. It's really my job to make you a better fisherman.